So I'm currently working on a piece that has 11 tracks going on, and it's really important for me to keep them in order. So what I've done is gone through and started to name all the tracks so I can figure out what's going on. Um, One thing I want to emphasize is the solo button. So right now everything is going to play. You can see everything's lit up here. If I hit the solo button, only the track that has a solo is going to play. So as I go through and name tracks, this is a really helpful tool. I'm going to use my space bar to play and pause and figure out what I should name this track. Okay, so this is a lower piano part. I'm just going to rename it to low piano. Another thing that's really helpful to know, I tried to play around with adding silence between. So when I laid this piano track, I I was literally doing it with my computer next to my keyboard. I did not have a MIDI line in. I had nothing. I was just doing it. You can hear my fingers hit the keys. And because I laid the piano track first, um, it was a little bit off with how I wanted to sing it. And so there is something called generate silence, where if, for example, I wanted to generate silence in this vicinity, I would click on the generate silence button. But this is like way too mathematical for me, and I can't work in like fractions of seconds and hundredths and milliseconds, and this is really not intuitive for me. And so what I recommend doing instead is zooming in and literally going through beat by beat. And if you need to grab a little bit of silence, highlight it, hit Control C for copy on your keyboard, and then put your cursor down and hit Control V for paste. Control Z undoes it. And so you can also do this. I recommend doing it at the very end where there's a note that's kind of steady. So if I zoom out a little bit, you can see where the notes are a little bit steadier is where I would want to copy. So let's just pretend that I'm doing it right here and see what happens. So I can tell from that last beat that there's just a little bit too much silence, just a little bit too much for how I want it to go. And I'm kind of singing in my head. What I would actually be doing here is playing this through a dozen times, singing over it and figuring out beat by beat. So you can see where the sound print hits, like beat by beat, what needs to be extended, what needs to be deleted. So I'm going to delete this here, play through again. Somewhere else, beside myself. So that works a lot better for me. By the same token, if I wanted to add sound, so that when we copy paste that flat horizontal line, we're essentially adding silence. If you want to add a little bit of sound, I recommend, again, grabbing it toward the end of your sound print, like block here, if I'm considering this stretch, this kind of carrot looking thing to be a block. Grab it toward the end and just add it in. And you might literally have to zoom in and go fractions of seconds to make it work. But if you recorded it like I did, without a pair of headphones and without singing and like without an inline through some kind of soundboard or mixing board, and you are just a little bit off and you need to make it work with how the vocals are supposed to go, that is one way to do it. Simply Control C, Control V, copy paste, and then Control Z to undo. All right, have fun.